Okay, we'll give it just a minute. One sec. Bring everything down. Okay. I'll like one more thing. Okay. Welcome everybody. Sorry, you're gonna hear a fan possibly in the background. It's that time of year. It's real hot. All right. At the top of this, I just want to say I'm sorry this didn't come out sooner. Some of you are on my Discord server or saw my post on YouTube, but I did have nasal surgery on Tuesday. I actually just got my splints out today. And so I might be blowing my nose. I'll mute myself, but I'm not going to talk a ton today. So, excuse me. One sec. I promise I'm okay to do this. And I know I don't need to do this, but I want to. And so I'm going to do this, but I am going to try to make it a little shorter. So my apologies for those who are looking for like a super deep dive into this. Good to see you're doing okay. Thanks, Alexis. I appreciate that, man. Honestly, it went pretty well. Like for the surgery, it's supposed to only be like 2 or 3 days recovery to get the splints out, and then it's another like 12 weeks of full recovery. So I could breathe a lot better already, but I'm just, it's like blood clots after blood clots and stuff. So anyway, doesn't matter. Let's get into it. I'm not going to do a ton of talking, like I said. So I would like to make this a little shorter, so we'll see how we can do that. I do have in front of me the Paintballers app. I did try to use Infinite Paintball, but they just don't have the layouts. So like, if you guys want me to use Infinite Paintball, then like, I don't know, pressure the guys that own that to like get the layouts out in time. So first thing off the break, we're gonna look. Well, first of all, we're gonna look at the back line as we always do, and then we'll probably talk about the snake side, if there even is one. They're both kind of like Dallas in 2020, I think, or not 2020, 2021. I think it was the same like kitty corner layout. So we'll cover the right side, which from this perspective we'll call the snake, and then we'll cover the left side, which we'll call the Dorito, and then we'll talk about the middle, and then finish with some breakouts. So obviously, first thing off the break, that first shot to the can, which is going to be this one to your right, is really solid right off the break. As always, you guys hear me say this, but any shots that exist over the top always are under threat of just getting shot by their mirror. So be aware of that. You can, it looks like, I'm obviously a lot lower than I would be, but you can also either take a knee or just be, you know, kind of somewhere in between a full stand and like a squat. But you definitely can shoot that shot pretty comfortably. There's a lot of stuff over the top as well that you can shoot. It's just obviously blinded, so that's a little tricky. With that though, you do have this shot as well into the Aztec, which from this perspective is the Dorito Aztec. It's going to be a little confusing, but we'll work through it together. As you run out, there is a crossfield shot right here into what appears to be this. Well, I don't know if it's a snake corner really, but there is a shot here that you could shoot into as you run out to this can. I imagine the crossfield shots are going to be pretty solid for the most part. Also over the top towards the home is really solid to this can as well. You could do both pretty easily, I would say. First few shots over there and then pause and start shooting for that insert. So really good shots off the break on the snake side of the field. We might just call it the right side to not get confusing. Heads up shots, really straightforward. There's probably a bounce shot here. Maybe, actually, probably not, now that I say that. Otherwise, this is a really cool channel. Quite a big channel to cover. You do have a secondary fill gap that you can hold. It is a little tricky to hold this because you can't really ignore the Aztec that's right here to do so. You might be able to in a real game, but it's going to be hard to ignore that. So just careful for your loaders to get shot off by the guy in the Aztec or this juice box that's in front of that. As we run out to the corner, same angle we saw. This can is a big problem for you. Guys off the break as well are a big problem. There's this gap right here that you could definitely shoot. We didn't look at this, but this gap right here, well, that gap exists. And then, oh, I guess we're looking this way. This is how it starts. Okay, let me see. Where is that? From this home's perspective. Oh, it's not from the home. It's from this guy. That's why I'm getting confused. It's from this guy's perspective, right? It's something like this. But you're essentially competing for each other's spots, so I'm not really sure that's much of a gap. What was I looking at? What was this? Yeah. Wherever this shot is, so this is towards the snake side from the home. So snake side from the home. Oh, it's this. Okay. It's this shot. Okay. So again, because we moved to the right side, we're having to mirror that from the back center shooting left. So really, really solid shots across the board. Nothing's too crazy. You could also take a knee and shoot this juice box on the right side. You can shoot the Dorito 1 on the right side as well. I mean, pretty much any of these Doritos are super available. Taking knees here is going to be a little risky. And in fact, I always just like to get a second view of this just because these bunkers are a little big, it feels like, in comparison to, certainly in comparison to what Guns Up shows, but in comparison to what you will likely see at the event or at practice. So, but you definitely can take a knee here. You're actually pretty well protected. Like I said, with the exception of like random balls coming up over the top, which does tell me that there's a lot of value in that. Okay, let's look at the left side here off the break. Again, lots of over the top stuff. That can we looked at. The insert into that corner is there. Not sure what you would shoot doing that. I don't think you'd shoot anything, right? Let me just double check. Yeah. Yeah, I don't really think you're going to shoot anybody doing that. So it would just be for the snake insert. Oh, man, my guy's breathing heavy. Okay, coming out to this spot now. And people who are going to shoot us, it's this cross field, man. This cross field gap is really, really solid. This reminds me a lot of 2024 WCPPL and USXBL had a layout like this. It was the USXBL layout that we played, but it was Aztecs, these mini Aztecs that just like could battle each other a lot with a pretty open center. So that tells me that there's a fair bit of strength in. So anytime that you have like these crossfield shots that these two are essentially 50-50, what that means is that if you can put even one more gun on that guy and get them to flinch or run with their gun down, and you don't get that same kind of pressure, that's a way that you can easily win the breakout in a lot of cases, right? Now, obviously easier said than done. Like maybe you shoot two guys on this guy, but the back center shoots you and it's just one gun. That's always a possibility. But even just this guy, you know, you challenging this dude off the break as you run out, and then this guy who either comes here and shoots and then holds this outside gap or what, I think it's going to be pretty easy to kill this dude. And I think over the course of the tournament, this is a spot you're going to have to like get into very quickly, the higher the division you go. So yeah, jousting at the Aztec for sure. Over the top shots towards the home are really solid. What this tells me is that like that home bunker is going to be really tough to live in. So if you want any advice on how to live as the back center there, you really, 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 really have to work on your peripheral vision. One way that you can do that is, I know this is kind of a silly drill, but you can actually have your back center guy stay here over the top. You could have a teammate over in this corner here and a teammate over in this corner. And essentially what they do is they have their hands up like this on either side. And what you're doing is you're staring straight ahead and you're looking for them to raise one hand. I guess you got to see it. You're looking for them to do this. Okay. Just one of them though. And I don't know. I've never actually done this drill. It's a thing you can do to work on your peripheral vision. But what you're looking for is as soon as somebody raises that hand, this guy calls which side. So he says right, left. You could say, even if you want to improve it, you could say like, if for example he were to raise this hand, it would be right 1 and then right 2, depending on which hand he raised, and vice versa. It could be left 1 and left 2. Can't really see that other side, but that is a drill you can work on your peripheral vision. It doesn't require you to shoot anything, but really that's all to say that like if you're going to do stuff over the top, generally speaking, you're going to want to work on that. So you're going to want to have good peripheral vision. coming out further past this point. So this home spot, this home is like that. To get past that gap is really going to be tough. And we've already seen that the gaps from the home on the right side are also really strong. So this is that shot that we're looking at. And then from here, we already talked about this shot's really good and this shot's really good. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a double the back center quite often. It is a really, really solid thing to do. And then honestly, once you pass this gap, past this home right here, a lot of the paint that's going to be coming at you is over the top paint from this dude, a run and gun sort of play. Anybody that's running and gunning out to this can, shooting heads up, that's another guy to worry about. But like that's pretty mobile paint, you know. That's a tough shot to make. So I feel like you actually have a lot of room to play. And so depending on what happens, there's a few routes, obviously. Like as soon as you get here, you could shoot this guy. Like look how interesting this is, right? So I come here, I push up, and if this guy's playing on the outside of his can, he actually can't see me. And now all of a sudden, I've got a really interesting shot towards the home, and then I can dive into the Doritos. Other options are you shoot at this dude, you run, and then you dive here. Obviously a risk, right? Definitely a big risk, but just some interesting routes. I'm not saying any of these are good, just things to point out. And it looks like there's not really anybody else that's going to stop you to get in this corner. So again, once you pass this spot, if you can pass this spot really quickly as an attacker, I would say that you're actually pretty safe as long as those guys aren't, as long as your opponents aren't like insane at running and gunning. Because that would be the biggest threat here is from their perspective, what it's going to look like is this. They come out, they run, they get here. I guess this is where they're shooting, right? So you have, right? That's the shot, right? Yeah. Yeah, so you could take the inside of it too. You could come here. You could come here and do this, but then you're just exposing yourself to back center. So anyway, oh, I have it breakouts. This should not say breakouts, but we're just going to leave it. Okay. We did that. We're going to do snake/right. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's look at the right side now. So we already kind of looked at this can. We're going to skip this. We're going to come to this insert bunker, we'll call it. First guy to worry about is definitely the Aztec. I don't think you can ignore their paint. Let's take a look. Especially if they're playing correctly. So like obviously I'm in a standing position. I wouldn't be standing in this situation, but I actually don't think you can ignore that paint. So you are going to have to go, you are going to have to, yeah, I don't know. You might be able to. It's really tough to say. If they play really high on this bunker, I don't think you can ignore it. If they play kind of like mid-level or an anneal, I think you can. But it's paintball, honestly. Anything can happen. So just be very careful taking this route for free right away. But that's going to be the first guy that's going to be a problem for you if you decide to just push up the snake right away. I suppose the tower guy as well. Yeah, the tower guy would kill you if somebody pushed that. So like we talked about before, what that would look like is they come out to here, they run, they come to this spot. I mean, I'm not saying this is a good route. It's honestly not, but that would be this. There's also much safer routes up the middle to get to that spot. So, but that's what that looks like. So honestly, if you get here quick enough, like if you get here and you immediately wrap and put this guy in, I would just dive and go. I think you don't even wait for the tower guy to get in position if you can help it. Unless I'm missing something else, I think you can ignore the home player's paint, right? Because the home player is going to be maybe shooting at you, but you should be easily able to dodge that or go crawl underneath that. And I don't think there's anybody else that can see you. Interesting, if this guy is in this brick closest to your snake, you actually, again, are protected from that, so you can just crawl underneath it, no problem. On the inside from here, not sure how well you can actually shoot that. But there is a gap. There is a gap right here, it looks like. Let's take a look at guns up and see what that looks like. Oh, yeah. That's a huge gap in guns up. Interesting. Much bigger. So then, question. What does this look like? I don't know. What do you guys think? It's probably something that you could go under. Anything else? Honestly, not a ton. And I mean, you can like float back. You can float back pretty safely and shoot at that Dorito. But that's going to be this guy right here. Maybe. Past the wedge in front of the wedge. Yeah, that should be this bunker. So that's going to stop this push right here. So that's kind of interesting. You guys can both stop each other. You snake attackers can stop each other from pushing. I don't think you can stop them. Yeah, you can't do anything before then. This isn't going to do anything. You could get a kill if they weren't paying attention, but you're not going to stop them. So let's look at the wire. Not a true wire. We should have noted that right away. Not a true wire. It makes it kind of tricky to challenge here. But it also means that if you do get low, so like imagine I'm on my knees, right? And I float off like this. I'm pretty good to challenge a lot here. And the same might be true for the Dorito side as well, which we'll look at. But like I can float out quite far and not have to worry too much about anything on the inside of the field. And you know, people who do this a lot, like Chris Shear, Harrison Fry, like those guys find a lot of success doing that on the Dorito side. So you might just have to get a little scrappy in the snake to be able to push. Only because like it's hard to. This is a spot where if I'm playing this position and I'm looking down the wire like this is one of those places where like it's so easy for a guy in that second Dorito to not see you, but just put paint where he thinks you'll be. And that's going to be hitting your mask and your loader easy with just the drop even from that distance. So this is one of those where like it's just so hard to ignore the wire completely because it kind of looks like it's blocked a little. You could if you get really, really low. I can't really do that here. You could, to an extent, maybe ignore it by getting this low and then wrapping, right? But that's just something to keep in mind. It does look like this Aztec now becomes a huge problem, and one that you're not going to be able to ignore. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. All right. This can also, or this tower would also be an issue. I'm not sure how common that second Hertz bunker is going to be. Always a possibility. And I would say this guy is another one where they could drop a ball in on you. Let's take a look from here. Yeah, I would say that juice box is a guy that can shoot you if you're not careful. Because that's what this shot right here. Right? Is that what we're looking at? Yeah. That is what we're looking at. So just that is something to be mindful of. I think this juice box could drop some paint in on you. It's tough. It's tough to say, but you know, crazier things have happened in paintball. I don't think this guy's stopping you if you get low, because like he could bounce a shot off, I suppose. Maybe not. He could bounce a shot right here and kill you. It's tough when there's a lot of bunkers that can shoot somebody. It makes it really tough to like prescribe any kind of routes to take. This is really just one where I would be careful about crossing this line until you know where the bodies are for sure, especially in the middle, which is tough. It does look like you can't ignore the Aztec at this point, with the only exception of be careful of the bounce shot. It looks like there is a potential way for them to kill you if they were to shoot this. So they shoot as close to that Dorito as they can. They hit off of that corner, and I think that is enough for paint to drop onto your pack and kill you. So be careful of that. We're gonna look at this inside route here in just a minute. Oh, my nose. Sorry, guys. I'll be okay. Getting up to this Dorito then. Same sort of deal with the inside stuff. This is really so much of this layout you've ignored opposite corners. So what that tells me is that like it seems like so much of this layout, and this is kind of true with like kitty corner layouts, is that like the snake is the push, the Dorito in front of it is the hold, and then the middle is where a lot of the game develops. So depending on where your middle guys are, who they shoot out, what, so on and so forth, like so much of what is happening is opposite sides fighting each other. Like if we were to imagine it like this, what this looks like is you essentially have this fight going on, and then you have the same thing but opposite. So then you have this fight going on. And it's like these two sides don't even talk to each other, or don't even like care about each other, except for maybe this one dude, except for some of these guys in the middle. Those guys in the middle, their jobs are really tough because you have to know which side to look. But it seems like, because these two people, these guys on this side versus this side, these guys aren't talking. These guys don't see each other at all. So, okay, getting up into the Dorito. You do have the home player to now worry about, or one that you can rather shoot at. Tower guy is still a problem. So we're going to look for ways in which we can dig that tower guy out, because it's going to be really hard for us to do that on the right side, the snake side, just because he's, you know, closer to us on our side of the field. So we were going to look for a pinch on the Dorito side to see where that comes from, because this tower guy is going to be a problem for the snake push. So we'll look for that. It looks like you could get a drop shot in onto the can as well. Get a kill there. You could get a kill on a guy in the wedge who might not be looking at you. You could do that from here as well. And then honestly, past or up into the 50, you have this wedge shot, which is the opposite wedge, essentially mirrored, but kitty corner mirrored. So these guys, you two can kill each other, which is a little scary. Can't see the Dorito in front of it. Oh man, my nose. Whew. And you cannot see that lay down wedge. There's a drop shot right here that you could get if somebody were to be wrapping on the inside. I'm not sure why they would do that though. Let's take a look. Is there anything here? This. I guess if you wanted to hold a gap, is there any reason you should do that? No, because you could hold that gap from here, depending on where it's coming from. So, interesting. I actually didn't notice that before. This is a gap you could hold. So let's imagine you get double Lucy. You push up to the snake. One way you can really hamper their push is imagine... Let's look at it over top. So imagine you get double Lucy. So you're playing on this side of the field. Looking this way. You're in this position. You hear double Lucy, which is kill 2 out of the left side in this case. So kill 2. Yeah. I've had a few people ask me this question before. So Lucy is a kill out of the left side, not specified anywhere. Ricky is a kill out of the right side, not specified anywhere. People usually use that call on breakouts because you kill somebody on the run and they're not really in a spot, but it just helps you know where those bodies come from. So if on the breakout you're a snake player and you dive into here and you hear double Ricky, sometimes what the tendency to do is to like get really amped and like you want to start pushing your side of the field because you got 2 kills, but those kills didn't come off of your side. So what you can do is, presumably if it's double Lucy, the widest guy is going to be in the home. So if you get to that snake and you want to really, really exacerbate your lead, all you have to do is just dump a bunch of paint in this gap and wait for your guys on the left side of the field to push and win for you. So that's a way that you can really easily influence the game. This is to be in this snake and doing this against that home player, this is like almost a guaranteed win. What eventually happens, not to get too in the weeds on this, but what eventually happens is this guy looks this way, and then these 2 players look over this way to try and stop the push. These guys look this way. This guy looks at you. So eventually what happens is these dudes do try to stop because this guy can't do anything anyway. And so that's a situation where, like, if you hold the gap long enough and you're not getting anywhere on the Dorito side, you can start to push up and get closer. And then again, what happens is these guys panic and they start looking this way. Sometimes they do this. Sometimes they do this. The front guy, because he's usually closest to the wire, will fight you. This dude will look back here. And then this guy has a choice he has to make. Which side do I want to shoot? But usually, like I said, when you get him to do this, this is a really good spot to be in, where now all of a sudden your Dorito guys can start pushing again. Okay, let's look at this bunker and this bunker, and then we'll go look at the Dorito side, and then we'll cover the middle. So this spot, we kind of already looked at this channel, which I actually really like. This is a really solid angle. I don't know. There's something really, really aesthetically pleasing about that, to see that channel. I imagine that depending on, the crossfield shots here are really strong, but I could also see situations in which people come here and they like immediately round this bunker and get here to this. I keep saying here, I got to get better. Get to the mini W on the snake side, shoot heads up towards that Aztec in front of you, and then they immediately look to get into this wedge. They crawl to get to this wedge. Now, why would we do that? What's the advantage here? Well, you do have a lot of influence, a lot of control over the can that was, in some instances, looking cross-field. So what that would look like is, imagine we are here, we're shooting this guy, and then all of a sudden this dude pops up right here and starts putting us in, and now we're put in. So now we have a choice. We can either wrap to shoot him, you know, we can come here, get low, shoot at him, get him to flinch, come here, take it over. You know, he's in a good spot still. You're not gonna dig him out doing that, but that's something that you could do. If you kill the can, you get, let's say, kill out of the left side, just one. It's 5v4. You could start holding the gap for the home guy to prevent him from filling out, which is nice. You could also shoot the outside if you kill the left widest player, so the left attacker. If you do that, you can hold the gap as well, and you can actually exert a lot of control over them in this position, because not only are you shooting their move on the outside, but you're also protecting the inside as well. So this is a really, really good position to be in if you get a kill off the left side. What else? You do have this shot, not really much there. You do have the home you got to worry about in this point. Again, another one of those spots where you could shoot them out without them paying too much attention. You also have the ability to stop the Dorito push up or past the Dorito 1, or like before the Dorito 1, right? You can stop them from pushing past this spot. You're not going to stop them if they go low here. Maybe you might actually. Yeah, now that I say that, I actually think you could. I think you would stop that Dorito push from this position. So this is a really solid spot, I would say, so far. Obviously, if you kill anybody out of the right side, oh my gosh, you have such a gap. You have such a gap to hold. Now, it's always tricky to know. Like, imagine you get your Ricky off the break. It's flat 5v4. You're in this position. You're already looking this way. Do you shoot the landing zone, or do you shoot this guy directly? I'm usually in favor of controlling the zone first. That's my first thing I do. I control the zone. It takes a lot more to hold this, right? It's a lot riskier for you. You don't actually need to do that to assert a lot of influence in this game. So if I were you, I would just shoot the zone, and then I would probably do that for maybe 10 to 15 seconds. And what I would be curious about, because obviously you can see that, like, where I'm at currently, well, I guess I just have to scoot up a little bit, but you can see that if they push this Dorito side quickly, they can possibly shoot you in the pack, so you do have to be careful about that. But you know, you're in this middle channel. There's always a possibility you get run down by something. So I wouldn't just do this forever, unless you know where everybody is and you know that you have them controlled. But, you know, assuming this is in the breakout, you shoot the gap for a minute, and then what I would do is I would come dead center over the top. You can't do it. I'm not tall enough in the game to do this, but you would come dead center over the top, and you would look to shoot at just see what the Aztec's doing. So shoot here. And if you don't see the Aztec challenging you, or if you see like paints coming, you know, cross field somehow, that's where I would then challenge him. That's where I would directly take this gap control and start shooting at him. You got to change it up. You got to be careful. A snapshot on somebody this close is not that difficult. So you just have to be really, really careful. If you feel like you're going to... If this guy's starting to become wise of this and he's going to challenge you back, just go back to shooting the zone and making sure they don't get anything wide. Okay. We're going to stop there for the snake side. And now we're going to talk about the Doritos. So give me just a second. Oh, shoot. One sec. There we go. We're going to do... Sweet. Okay, so now the Dorito side. How are we doing? By the way, thank you guys for watching. If you're watching it live, thank you. I apologize for the state that I'm in, but as you guys know, had nasal surgery. So thanks for your patience. If you could, hit the like button. That would be awesome. I'd really appreciate that. And I won't be there, by the way. I won't be at the event. I will be broadcast. Will be. I will be telestrating. If anybody knows Escape from Tarkov, that's a Nikita quote. Will be. Okay, Dorito side. So we already kind of looked at this joust. Really, really solid joust. I kind of imagine a lot of people are going to be taking this off the break. That's just kind of a default move. There's a lot of stuff up the middle too, something that we didn't really talk about. But lots of shots up ahead and lots of shots in this gap that we talked about from the cans perspective. This is such a cool... Honestly, I think the thing that makes this layout very interesting to me is this battle. Like almost exclusively, I think this battle is going to be really fun to watch. There's just something about requiring the gunfighting skills of a team to really, like, you kind of saw that a little bit in the last event, but like this fight right here is going to be so much of what breaks down in the game, in my opinion. So I'm really excited to see what it looks like. We already talked about that though, so let's see what it looks like to actually play these spots. Good to see you, SVP. Hope you recover soon. Hey Soda, thanks man, I appreciate that. So we already talked about the fact that you can, I would imagine you can shoot a guy who's trying to crawl up there. I imagine you can hit a pack depending on how high you play on this bunker. Just obviously be careful of the Aztec who might shoot at you every so often. If you get low enough, you can ignore almost the entire Dorito side. If you want, you can challenge the Doritos only up until Dorito 2, it looks like. I don't really think... Actually, this is probably a much bigger gap on guns up. Let's take a look. Oh, wow. No, it actually doesn't even exist. The gap that we're looking for is between that brick and the tower to see if we can shoot the Dorito 1. And guns up, we can't. In this, we can. That's what that gap looks like. So, test it out at the tournament. Test it out at your local field. Just be aware of it. It's not really anything to do. It's just you got to be careful not getting shot by somebody shooting at you in that direction. Okay, lots of routes up the middle to that tower, kind of what we talked about. Obviously, if you dominate the channel, we'll call it, then you can push up to the middle, possibly. Like, let's say, for example, this guy's stuck. You wrap here, you have enough control, it's early in the point, you might be able to take a bite up to this spot and get here, because look, who's going to shoot you if you take the outside route, right? If I come outside, the home is a problem. So that's one. But the Aztec that we were battling earlier is not somebody who can shoot me. So let's say you know that their team, when they get to this snake insert, likes to play on the inside of it for a little. All you really have to do then is just like shoot some paint here, wrap, control this guy, and then check off the home. And as soon as the home flinches, you come up here and now you're in a really decent spot. That's if you want to do it on the outside route. There's other ways in which we can get here, like we talked about before. What would a good snake play look like? Unfortunately, you just missed the snake part. We're going to do the rest of the Doritos. We'll talk about the middle, and then I'll do a little bit of breakouts for the snake stuff, but you might have to go back and watch that. Okay, yeah, lots of stuff. Dude, you can influence so much from this bunker. This is one of the best bunkers in the layout. This is such a good bunker, in my opinion. I mean, it can't... Well, I say that. It can't actually stop progression, so... It's not the best bunker for that, but I just feel like it can just influence the game so much, right? You can shoot these gaps as people try to move. So much control over the tops of these bunkers. Like, look at how many spots I can shoot. I can see pretty much everything back here. Despite the fact that it can't hold anything, I would say super well. It's a really, really good spot to play from. No, it's all good, Soda. I feel bad you just missed it. Okay, so looking at the Doritos, really big crossfield gaps here. You know, for how relevant it is for them to be pushing up to those Doritos very quickly. There is a lot of crossfield stuff towards the Doritos you can shoot. There's a bit of a gap here, which is going to stop some of the Dorito push. Again, another one of those where I wonder what guns up looks like. Let's take a look. You have to float off of it a little. But there is a gap there, just in the case that they... What would that stop? Oh, wow, that's like... Sorry. The browser's kind of bugging. That's a fairly decent gap. Oh, the angle's a little different. Not quite that. It's more like this. But you get the idea. So that's a pretty decent gap. I mean, again, getting to a corner, getting to a wide spot and shooting opposite is not the best play normally. but it's always an option. I'm just curious to see what inside shots there are. Not a ton. This is another one of those bunkers that looks like you're using it as an insert up to the Doritos. And what the nice thing about these juice boxes is you can do so much from over the top. So just check this out. Okay, look at this. A standard breakout, you slide here, you stand up tall on your feet. First guy you can shoot is that can. Now, it's an easier shot for you because you know how to line up the shot, right? You have a direct line from the top of that can downward to know where to put your paint. They don't have that. They don't actually know where you're going to be if you decide to make this play in this juice box. So let's imagine they send a guy to the can, a guy to the snake, one back center, and then who cares what they're doing on the Dorito side? If I stand up right here, who's shooting me? Like, the only guy that's shooting me is this snake dude. And then no one else can actually see me. This is a blind shot, which I should be able to react to. So again, working on peripheral vision off the break, assuming that that's where they went off the break is that can, this insert, and back center, I can influence a lot of control over the top of this bunker. The nice thing is too, is that depending on which angle I decide to take, I can't ignore the snake player because that blind shot, I can't ignore either of these players, to be fair. Like, there's always a blind shot potential, but there's also this over the top shot that I can put on the back center to then dive into the Doritos and just be in play. You can do that. You can obviously do the typical wrap and go. That's always an option as well. It looks like you ignore your heads up guys. So there's no way this dude's going to shoot you from the inside of that juice. Yeah, he actually can't even see you. So you're golden to push up. Unless somebody got to the center, the 50 brick faster than you did, like you're pretty good to just check off the back center and move. So that tells me that the back center, having somebody looking the Dorito side right here, this is one of the only places, not one of the only places, this is a really solid place to stop that Dorito side progression. Okay, and getting up into the Doritos. Same sort of gap that we saw here before. Let's take a look at what it looks like from here. That's about as small. It's about as small. And that's holding outside the corner. So, interesting. Interesting. Okay, interesting. I don't really have anything to say about that, but you could shoot paint there. I wouldn't do it for too long, but there is something to do there if you want to. If you're stuck and you can't move, you definitely can put paint here. You have so much of the back center you can shoot. Really exposed to that. This 50 brick guy starts to become a little bit of a concern. So you have to be careful. You can't just ignore them and start wrapping on the back center because this dude will just blast you if you're not careful. I actually do think people are going to send a guy up the middle quite often. So off the break, that is. Okay, in terms of who stops you, it's that wedge guy that we talked about earlier, this dude. So now it's starting to tell me that this wedge guy is really important to stopping the Doritos, right? So imagine you get here, you come up. Yeah, this guy, this dude is just a brick wall to get past. That's crazy. So the wedge stops this baby Dorito into Dorito 1 pretty convincingly. Obviously, you don't have to have that player because the back center can do it as well, but you're just so close. You're so close. You can influence so much pressure there. You also do have this juice box as well. So unfortunately, getting to this baby Dorito, you might get stuck. That's a lot of bodies to check off. So I would probably, the first thing I would do, I wouldn't do this all the time because people are going to pick up on it, but if I got here, I'd probably, shoot this gap for a second, maybe not, and then I would head check the 50. Okay, do I see the 50? No. Okay, if I look here, do I see any paint coming from this juice box? No. What about the back center? Okay, back center's looking at me. Then I would check off this guy. Okay, is he looking at me? Is he not? He's not. I'm going to hold it. And now I'm going to check out the back center. And I'm going to stand. I guess you can't really do it super well. But the biggest issue is checking off 3 different spots to push. That's a really tough thing to work past. But you're gonna have to, unfortunately. So assuming you get past this gap, that's going to be a huge gap to get past. You have now the Doritos can see each other a lot more than the snakes can. So these bunkers are completely mirrored. So these guys are directly fighting each other on the field. which tells me that if you can be the first team to get a guy past that gap and into here, now you can really start to slow down the Dorito push, right? Obviously, you want to, you always want to be attacking what's in front of you and not just holding a job cross field. But sometimes points work by just punishing mistakes. And a mistake, not necessarily a mistake in this instance, but like one of the ways in which you can punish them is just holding this gap, preventing them from moving up. Right? You have better field position than they do. They can't match it. Inside shots, same sort of deal. If you stand up, you do have a really strong influence over the Aztec on the right side. Back center's still there, obviously. It's that weird, awkward, not really a true wire sort of deal, but this is that Dorito we talked about before, right? So if I stand tall and I shoot down right here in a real game, you might actually shoot somebody right in the face if you do this. That would be like a face or loader shot. So obviously the opposite is true. They could shoot you in the face or loader as well, but just be aware that if you are going to try to push and you're not really clearing it, be careful. You can float back. So if, for example, how would that work? Let's take a look. Nobody can be in this juice box, it looks like. Actually, I don't know if you can even float back from the Doritos. That's pretty tough. You could float back if there's nobody in the can, but this gets really sketchy when you start to get back here, because these are the guys that you're mostly worried about stopping you. So what I was really trying to see is if you could float out and shoot this guy, and you can. It's just you have to be really careful about the primary positions that are trying to stop you from moving. Assuming that you are able to put these guys in, and the nice thing about this is that this is kind of, at least from this perspective, this is an either-or situation, right? Like, if you're playing against a good team, they're not going to have both of their players looking straight ahead like this, stopping the Doritos. So you're not going to have a guy in the wedge shooting at this bunker and a guy in the can shooting at that bunker. So you have to check off one or the other, assuming that they're in both. And that's nice. So you don't have to worry about both of them. It's possible that they switch if you take too long. So, like, let's say, for example, you shoot the wedge in and the guy's screaming, switch, switch, switch. But again, you're holding the same angle already. So that's good. The home has a big hold on you in this position. That's really unfortunate. The juice box as well has a really strong hold on you. This juice box cross field does as well. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot that stops this next gap. This Dorito 2 to 3 gap. That's really big. What is that? What is that? Is that this one? Oh yeah, that's this gap. Yeah, of course, that's a huge gap. So it seems to be that the layout is going to break down to this spot, and I don't know. I kind of feel like this gap's going to be hard to get past. So truthfully, I mean, it's like both sides of the field. Oops. Both sides of the field. This is kind of where that line is drawn. It feels like that's going to be the hardest line to cross. Okay, let's look at the next Dorito. Sorry, we're taking a little longer than I wanted, but I'm sure you guys aren't upset about that. Aztec wrapping. So I can kind of ignore this dude. It gets a little sketchy because that guy over the top will kill you. But if you get low, wrap, you've got no free kills just yet. I would say the baby Dorito's almost a free kill. Yeah, especially from right here. Like, this is such a strong position if you do end up getting to that Dorito 3. First thing you do is hug the bunker and you shoot for this dude and this dude. I feel like that's just a really solid play. Check off the Aztec and then push up to the wedge. Immediately play down the wire. Biggest thing you want to prevent is just getting run down. So in this position, you know, assuming that there's nobody down the nobody matching you in the wire, the can guy's still there. Obviously, you have to check him off. But everything else, like as soon as you pass this spot, passing the 50-yard line is always just next packs and backs. Go head hunting. It's not really like much to say about that. So the biggest issue is figuring out how we can get into those positions to begin with. Okay, let's move on to the middle. And let's check this out. So we already talked about the shots from the back center. As you can see, like, there's just so many gaps, so many routes up to this position. You can also see there's even this kind of stuff, right? So Imagine what does this look like on guns up really quick? Because this is looking like just insane. Yeah, like I almost want to call this command center. Like getting into the, like running and gunning from here. This is really solid. That's really, really solid. Now, of course, again, with anything, like with anything, you could just shoot over the top and kill this guy. So you do have to be worried about that. It's not free, but this is a really solid route to take. Even if you float out, even if you float more towards the center of the can as opposed to, or center of this brick as opposed to like behind the juice box, you have so much visibility into that snake runner. You have okay-ish visibility into the Dorito side, not as much, right? Like you have this shot here. It's a bit of a narrower gap. And if you're going to shoot that, you may as well just do it from this position, honestly. So there is a bit of a cross shot. Like you do have to worry about crossing streams a little bit. Like if the home is shooting this way and you're running this way, you do have to be careful about that. But as long as you don't take the straight in front of the juice box route or behind the juice box route, you'll be fine. If you go out, because then your guy at home will drop his stream before he shoots you. Or at least he should. Otherwise, like look at that, man. Like this is such a solid gap, and you can just kind of play this spot. This also allows you to potentially come here, take this job off from the guy that's shooting cross, and get to this position. But I feel like that's where a lot of run-throughs are going to happen. So what's going to happen is these guys come out to these bunkers. If you imagine that these two guys do the same thing, eventually what happens is these dudes get here, and they start to shoot each other's Aztecs, and then they hear the call and they come and run them down. But obviously the Aztec is the one to protect that shot. So there is a bit of a... I feel like if you just decide to go up to the 50 right away every point, you're probably going to get run down a lot. Don't cross the streams. Never cross the streams, dude. Never cross the streams. I'm not sure you'll be able to kill anybody here if you were to look towards the snake side. In this case, the left. You might be able to get a bounce, though. So if you know that they're going to take that bite, it might be worth it to just start pumping this spot. I imagine you get a bounce kill there. So just be careful. You do have this shot here. It does require a float, and there isn't a free kill there, but... Yeah, actually, I don't even know if that's worth it. That guy can kill you, but he's not going to be there just challenging you up the middle like that. If we look on this right side, more influence and control over the Dorito side. Huge gap, right? This is a massive, massive, massive gap. This is one where you can set up a trap and you don't have to do anything. You can just react to them sliding into that spot and shooting them. Just hopefully you don't have slow reaction speed. If you get a Ricky or a kill out of the right side off the break, and imagine it's the widest guy, then you can hold the gap. You can prevent them from getting out wide right here. Look at that paint. Look at that paint right here. What? That is crazy. Let's look at that. Can I not? Can I not? Yeah, that legitimately would kill this guy. Yeah, I think. I don't know, maybe. If this guy was holding this gap, like we talked about, I think that's worth shooting. Definitely. If you're in this 50 brick, we're calling it a 50 brick. If you're here and you see his paint but you can't shoot him, shoot this. See what happens. I mean, at least in a video game, it's, it's going over there. That's pretty solid. Just give it a try. All right. If we get to their brick, you can definitely shoot the snake guy. Can't see much of the snake past that point. We were trying a bounce shot off the tower into the 50 brick, but we're unsuccessful. I assume it's this right here somewhere. Where would that be? That's a hard shot. I'm not saying this is what you were talking about. I'm just curious. I'm just looking. That's like maybe. I mean, just that angle is insane. Like if you hit somebody on an angle like that, yeah, that would be really insane. Maybe if the field's really, really inflated, you could, but that's a really sharp angle. So I would be very surprised if you killed somebody doing that. Could you do it here? No, that pin is too far away. I don't think you kill him off the pin either. From home, we were trying it. Oh, interesting. I mean, yeah. I like the idea. I'm not sure you could, but I mean, I like the idea. It's one of those where like, it's paintball, man. You shoot paint everywhere, you know? It's like, it's probably pretty tough to make a bad call there. But what that does tell me is that off of this tower, if for whatever reason this guy was looking this way, like there's some pretty decent shots off the tower. There has to be, right? Like imagine this. Off the tower into the guy looking snake way, maybe? I don't know. The angle's not great. But anyway, this isn't a bounce shot stream. I don't normally try to like... I think it's best to give you guys ideas to try stuff, but like I definitely... Spending a lot of time worrying about bounce shots on a video game is pretty pointless. But let's look at this juice box really quick, and then we'll look at breakouts, because we're actually almost done. We already looked at that shot. We looked at the can. There's so many routes up to the middle. Really, the biggest thing that you have to be concerned about, in my opinion, is if this guy is shooting cross field off the break, like we looked at earlier, or if this Aztec is as well. If that Aztec is staying cross. It's possible that this guy would kill you as well. Like imagining he dives out here. I just don't know if people are going to do that. Dive here and then take this angle. Is that what that is? No, it's this one. I don't know, man. I feel like unless there's like, so kind of how I make judgments for stuff like that, just so you guys know, and then you can decide for yourself. I assume that at a pro level, the only reason that people do some of these things is if there is a very specific purpose, because it stops a very specific play that is good, right? Now, in lower divisions, it's possible that people see a gap and they're like, I'm going to run and I'm going to slide there, and I'm just going to start shooting that gap. And that's kind of the furthest the consideration goes. And so in lower divisions, it's always possible. Like it's the truth of the matter is there's always a chance that someone will do that. At pro play though, like they will break conventional like wisdom when it comes to playing a field, but like I said, it's because there's a very specific thing they're trying to do against a team that they know is trying to do something else. So I just don't see people sliding in here and shooting this gap, because if you were trying to stop somebody that was going up the middle off the break, you would miss them here. The only thing you're going to do is kill somebody who plays over the top and isn't paying attention. That would be the first thing. If you slide here and immediately look inside, you'll kill somebody who's playing over the top, not paying attention, or somebody who decides to take the bite around that side of the juice box up the middle without checking it off. Is that going to happen often? Probably not. There's no other reason to be looking cross field here, right? Like you don't need to hold this gap from this angle. You don't need to go super far wide and literally shoot the opposite corner of the paintball field, which is the literal farthest shot you could be shooting. So I just don't really see people doing that. And so when I, as a player, walk a field like this, the judgment that I make is if I'm over the top right here, I really don't need to worry about this guy very much. The exception to that is if I do this a lot and then the reaction to that again from our opponent is to slide in that bunker and shoot at me. So like if I do this only a handful of times, I don't really think I need to worry about this guy here, which tells me I can just focus all my attention on over the top, back center, can, this guy. Like Aztec drop shot, back center, can, and this dude. Those are the guys that I would worry about. All right, we did look at this tower, but I wanted to check some of the routes up the middle that way. So you can, as you come here and shoot for the can, you could go out to the tower this way, but as you see, this stream is just massive, right? Like we already talked about this Aztec dude being one of the only people, not one of the only people, but being a guy who's a pretty good candidate for holding this crossfield shot pretty consistently off the break, which means you're just running through that guy's paint. Now, it's possible you dive underneath it, right? Like that paint, what I'm shooting is high enough that they would dive underneath that pretty easily. So if you're in this opposite situation, just be sure that as you do this, drop your paint. Drop your paint every so often. Just make sure to check off that lower route. But otherwise, that is a route into the can, or into the tower, excuse me. And we also looked at this one, where if you come out a little wider, assuming that their guy dives into the snake, their guy dives into the snake, you can run here. The biggest concern is going to be anybody moving up, running and gunning up the middle, which you should be able to beat them in a 50-50, right? Like, if you run out here, and you come here and you start shooting, you should be able to kill that guy, okay? It's a 50-50 trade. Otherwise, this guy gets to the can, he plays heads up, he doesn't see you. The home guy still can't see me, and then I can either dive here or here. If I dive into this Hertz bunker, I have to dive pretty early, and I actually think the can guy can shoot me pretty easily. Let me see. I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, yeah, probably. I don't know. Let's see what this guy's going to do off the break most of the time. Crossfield, cross. Both are pretty good. Heads up. Heads up. Honestly, it's tough. Both angles are really good for that can guy. Paintball neutral goes crazy. What's up, buddy? What's up, Avery? Okay. We looked at everything. I know we said the text box said breakouts at the beginning, but we're gonna do breakouts for real. Okay, let's unlock this. All right, let's take a look at breakouts really quick. So, like I said, I think a lot of the game is going to be dictated by these two bunkers. These bunkers, I think, are going to dictate a lot of the game because they're gonna dictate a lot of the flow and like which side of the field you should be pushing, in my opinion. I think that these two spots are going to be super hard to get through. From the home, both sides of the field are really solid. It's hard to say which is better. I would say the snake side has more shots from the home, but the challenge is that the only shot that the home really has, like from the home to stop the Doritos, is this angle, this gap I'm holding right now. As soon as you pass this line, you have access to so much of the Dorito side. So it is pretty scary. Because of that, you either need to, let's take a look really quick just to double check, just to remind ourselves. So there is, with that being said, there is this as well. There's like a huge gap that you could hold if you stood out here in this big dead zone. These dead zones are massive. This gives you a lot of access to the Dorito side. So big things to look out for as you create, as really like, regardless of where you decide to go on the field, you just have to be really aware that this guy is going to shoot cross field until he's going to do that all game, unless they're bad or unless you force them not to. So you really need to work on your running and gunning. If this becomes too risky for you to make running and gunning, you're going to have to dive into it, and you're going to have to find a way to prevent them from running and gunning as well, because what you don't want is for your gun to be down and theirs to be up as they go to that same spot. So if that's the case, you just have to put an extra gun from the home towards that guy. There's lots of ways in which you can do that, right? Like, let's say, for example, you want the snake side coverage from the home still, but you want that over the top shot, so you could go up to this command center, whatever you want to call it. That guy could shoot it, and while this dude just like literally dives out to his bunker. Possibility. Just remember as well that if we pass this gap, with the exception of the dead zone, this gap is pretty free past like literally right there. So if you're fast enough, you could possibly get into this baby Dorito. You could take a more direct route into these Doritos. The biggest thing that's going to stop you there is anybody anticipating it and therefore shifting their guns. Like, because this guy has obviously really good visibility into that. But the other thing is if this dude that goes out to the can decides to look heads up the whole way. So if this guy off the break decides to start shooting heads up, that's going to be the thing that kills anything past the corner or anything past the baby really fast. One thing we didn't really look at is like going into the Doritos. So we looked at the corner. Okay, so the home still is a problem if you decide to go into the baby. So if you do decide to dive into the Doritos, the home guy is going to shoot you. And I feel like that's a far enough distance that that's going to be really tough in most games. I feel like most games you're going to have to stop in the corner. But don't be afraid, like I said, to take these kinds of routes in every so often, because those definitely exist. The home has, like I said earlier, it has strong enough shots that you could double the home. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of doubling up the home. Sorry, one sec. Oh, man. I accidentally just swallowed the biggest blood clot. Oh, it's horrible. I'm so sorry. Okay, as I was saying, um, really the biggest considerations here are: can I force this guy to run with his gun down into this position? If you can take this guy out, that actually frees up a lot for you to do on the opposite side of the field, right? And it gives you a lot more influence on this position, and just to dominate the snake side of the field. We already talked about there's a lot of routes to go up to the middle. What I wouldn't do is I would not double the home and also send a guy to the command center, right? It's really kind of one or the other. You don't want to front load the middle portion of the field, because you could just very easily get contained. That's the one thing you don't want. So if you are going to double the home, that's fine. I oftentimes like double the home delay up. I think that's a really solid play. It kind of just depends on how good the team is, like how good the teams are that you play against, to like adjust their guns after the breakout. So sometimes what happens is people will shoot up the middle for like their first 5 balls, and even as we describe it here on the stream, they then shortly after start shooting, essentially heads up for the rest of the game. Now, if that's the team that you play against, then doubling the home and delaying up the middle is a much better option than to just send the guy up the middle right away. Because obviously, if you send the guy up the middle right away, you possibly die to those guns that are coming up the middle. The biggest challenge is going to be if they decide to stay dedicated up the middle. That's what really sucks about trying to do a delay up the middle. So if you double the home with the intention of delaying, you can get stuck in the back center. But honestly, even up until semi-pro, I don't feel like teams stay dedicated on a gap up the middle for that long. It's also partly because over the course of the game, it becomes way less safe, right? Let's imagine that this can guy just decides off the break, I'm going to look up the middle, I'm going to start shooting a bunch of paint here. Well, if we didn't die off the break and we have 1 or 2 people in this zone, like these guys are just going to shoot this can dude for free. So there also is a point in which the middle does become safer, but there's a really precise window, because depending on, where they are, right? So like, let's say they're here, these guys are shooting cross field and they're also scanning for the middle. So this guy's shooting at his Aztec, and they're also scanning for shots up the middle. That's really tough to delay. That's like the worst case scenario for you to delay up the middle. Is people who do have a purpose to shoot cross field and periodically check off the middle, and they're not really threatened too much to come off of that job. Because like if we look at the Aztec, this Aztec guy, I mean, it's not great because is this even the angle? This wasn't the angle that I was trying to illustrate. Like, let's say this dude, this is actually perfectly fine. I was gonna say this guy here, this guy can do this, he can check off the middle, but he can't hold this for too long, because that snake guy, if he gets up to that, what is that? The mini W and the snake, or he gets up to the Dorito, this dude dies so fast. So anyway, I guess I'll just leave the point as is. As far as the Dorito side, I already mentioned, past that gap, you're relatively safe, but well, I should just say this is your safest bunker. So I know it's not very interesting, but your typical breakout is probably going to be something like this. Probably, if you decide to double the home. You could also, alternatively, you could do this. Doesn't really matter. If you decided not to double the home, then you can just play the back line, which isn't very interesting, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that you can't play any of these spots. These bunkers are all really solid. This is another one that we talked about earlier. This is a really solid bunker. Really good for controlling the corner. Super solid, or rather the baby, not the corner. Really solid for controlling the baby. Pretty much you can't push past the Doritos with this guy alive. Like, it's really tough. It's going to be also very hard to dig them out, because even if the guy gets into the snake, if he's playing in the bunker, you're not going to see his pack. So this is a really solid bunker to play in. It's also hard to dig them out in a run through, right? Because even if you decide to come run them down, like, That's a really, really long distance to shoot the guy out. So I personally think this is a really good spot. There's a few ways in which you can get there. You can obviously come here on the outside, jump over and play it. A little bit of a delayed route into it, I would say. If you decide to risk a body into the snake off the break, you always draw guns doing that, which means that your second guy, if he was playing this gap or if he was playing the can, it doesn't really matter. Either one, he then has the ability to push up into the wedge right after, right? Biggest challenges, biggest concerns with that in doing either of those options is really just, is the home looking my way? Is my heads up mirror looking my way? And as we established already, like, I feel like a lot of points this Aztec is going to look cross field. It's possible that they look heads up. It's possible. But I also think that the Aztec's going to look cross field a lot, which means I can probably safely round this corner and then dive here. And then take this. So honestly, it looks like a pretty standard layout. I think where the interesting elements or the interesting things to consider when trying to craft like maybe a creative breakout is, can I make this route safely? The one that we talked about earlier. And the other things you could do, we didn't really look at this, but if you're able to make these kinds of routes up the middle pretty safely, which I would say you can go up the middle pretty safely. There's also an option to come to this tower and look inside or look crossfield. There's also options to do that as well. This would probably be the safest way to dig out the wedge player. Even though it's not that safe, imagine you have somebody, imagine they play the back line. Okay. Imagine they play the back line. They send this dude up to this Aztec or to the wedge and he's looking heads up. This guy in the snake is of course going to be looking heads up. The home guy is a wild card. He could look either side. He's going to be the biggest one to concern yourself with. But imagine, you know, you find a gap, you either kill him, you get him to flinch, whatever. From this 50 bunker, like, first of all, you're already in a really good spot. So, like, let's go back. From this 50 position, you're already in a really good spot to see what the corner's doing, right? He's either looking at you or he's not. You can definitely shoot your paint. Doesn't really matter. You look at the Aztec. Aztec has to do a pretty far wrap to see you. And unless they come over the top, that Aztec guy's not doing that, right? If you have any kind of pressure on the right side of you in this position, that guy can't wrap that hard to look for you. And then that means that all you have to really do is see, is the home looking at me? If the home is not looking at you, then what you can do is you can, if I can actually vault over this, maybe not. Okay. If the home is not looking at you, you can actually ghost right here. So look at this. If I'm in this position, the home can't see me. The Aztec can't see me unless he wraps super harsh up the middle. The corner can't see me. Now I ghost here. The can, assuming he's not looking crossfield, like, again, we're making assumptions that everybody is looking straight ahead of them. I come here. I ghost up. I can't see this guy yet. Okay, I understand that. I'm blocking the can now. The can guy cannot see me. I look for the home dude. Home guy's not seeing me still, and as soon as I see this home guy's not looking at me, I then, with my gun confident, I run to this position straight. There's no way this corner guy's looking at me here. I come to this spot, I dig this guy out. I think that's going to be a fairly common way to dig out the wedge player. Is this inside route? So, anyway, that's kind of it. We ended up talking longer than I thought. How much time? An hour and 8 minutes. Wow, I said it'd be short. Here we are. Well, that's it. So, sorry, not too much of a deep analysis, even though we talked for a long time. We just talked slower, I guess. But that's it. If you guys enjoyed the video, as always, please sure to hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not already. Most people are. But be sure to subscribe. It does help the channel out a lot. As I mentioned, I will not be there in Ohio, if that's where it's at. But I will be telestrating. What else is there? I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you.